Is right on, and we just went through an election where multiple candidates were outspent by special interests by a mile. Take Ohio, for example, where Senator Sherrod Brown was reelected. He was opposed by the NRA. He was opposed by the Koch brothers. He won. So you don't need to have more money in a campaign. You just need to have enough money. And then when an issue like this breaks through to the public consciousness, the special interests that threaten to target you for defeat somehow lose a lot of their luster. Their campaign spending and their campaign contribution won't be enough to outmatch your popular polling. As the gentleman from Handgun Control mentioned, there's an overwhelming majority out there, 9 out of 10, that say we would like to see background checks, and actually 7 out of 10 NRA members say they'd like to see background checks.
With those numbers said, what then gives Wayne LaPierre the confidence today to go before this hearing, the first, and say no go to something like this? And we knew this yesterday. The Washington Post reported excerpts of what he planned to say, so there was an opportunity for those 4 million moms and dads that LaPierre refers to, members of the NRA, to call him and say, no, we are okay with at least this action.
Well, I think let's break it down to Senate math, okay?
Okay.
He would like to think that he can threaten Democrats with failure at re-election time. And if he's successful in doing that, he can pick off enough to avoid a 60-vote cloture vote. He would like to think that there are enough moderate Republicans, and there are a couple left, that he could scare into towing the line so that they too would not go along with a 60-vote cloture vote. That's the math that's going on here. He's trying to say, I will block you, Chairman Leahy. I will block your legislation. And he can only do that if he can block a 60-vote cloture number. And that's the game. That is the game in its entirety right now.
Shira, I want to play what Gail Trotter, she testified. She's a gun advocate and a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. And it speaks to, David was talking about the fear that perhaps hovers over some lawmakers. But you have this woman talking about, in her opinion or in her mind, how guns are the equalizers for women who live in fear. Let me play this interesting remark from her.
Guns make women safer. Over 90% of violent crimes occur without a firearm, which makes guns the great equalizer for women.
Her comments may ring true for her, but we know that you are using fear to prove your point. You've got a sheriff in the Midwest right now who is in hot water, involved in a controversy because he recorded a message telling people 911 may not get us there in time because of budget cuts, so now go out and get yourself a gun. Take a gun safety class and arm yourself, protect yourself. Before we get there, you may have to do the job for you. There's a lot of fear or the use of fear that what if someone comes through your door. How do you provide logic when fear is something that is unseen and it is used in politics all the time?
Right, and I thought her testimony was certainly one of the most interesting of the morning on the panel, especially given in the past women in particular have been some of the strongest supporters for gun control, especially coming to Washington and lobbying on that behalf. But look, when you look at the NRA's power and the fear that they install in a lot of members of Congress, it's because they have the money to back it up. They can spend millions and millions of dollars in the elections, and the gun control group cannot answer back. They don't have the funds.
They get that money, though, Shira, from people that, for whatever reason, believe beyond the Second Amendment and your right to have a gun in your home. I think those people are also operating on a fear, not this clinging to your guns or whatever people like to tweet to start fights over this issue. They make folks believe that this is the equalizer. When the day of reckoning comes and this scary person comes in your home, this is the equalizer. And here this woman is stating 90% of violent crimes occur without a firearm, but we know that the majority of women, for example, who are hurt, it's by someone you love. So what, do you stop loving? Do you stop having a man or a significant other in your life here?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think the NRA
We know that is not the case, but that argument presents...
But the NRA...
Go ahead.
The NRA represents a wide swath of gun owners, and I'm sure a lot of them disagree with some of the stuff that Wayne LaPierre has said, or even stuff that this female testified on the panel. That's the thing, though. They have strength through their solidarity. And you look at the opposition, the gun people who are supportive of gun control, and they are much more splintered. They have money and they have solidarity, and that's what makes them so powerful.
And John, lastly, I've got to ask you, do you believe, though, those who want to see some kind of gun legislation passed are doing enough outreach, if you will, to people who feel that they have a right and know that they have a right to own a gun, but perhaps are in the middle and willing to look at some legislation, but feel like they're under siege by, I guess, those in the Northeast or liberals in the Northeast? Is there enough outreach at this point?
I think there's enough outrage among the gun-owning community. You know, as was said, the majority of even NRA members support a background check and a ban on high-capacity ammunition clips. And I think that they need to call the Congress today and say, we support this. I mean, the NRA leadership represents the gun industry, the Cerberus capital management on Wall Street, Remington, Smith & Wesson, Sig Sauer, Bushmaster owned by Cerberus. That's where their money comes from. The NRA members pay $35 to be a member.
Right.
It costs $100 for that membership. So that's a loss leader. It's just so the NRA leadership can say we have numbers, but it's the gun industry who's uniquely unregulated and gives tens of millions to the NRA that is buying off Congress. And it's time for Congress to find their backbone.
It is a point that I'm happy you made regarding the gun manufacturers and the amount of money it puts into the NRAs compared to the everyday moms and dads that Wayne LaPierre likes to refer to. Thank you so much for your time, John. Thank you, David. Thank you, Shira. It's a great pleasure.
Thank you.
As I mentioned,